Hey, I'm Nicole. Welcome back to my channel. In my last video, I was sharing some reflections and learnings from the No Buy Challenge experience that I put myself through last year. One of the things that the experience of trying a No Buy Challenge for an entire year taught me is that I don't think it's particularly realistic for me to go an entire year without buying a single item of clothing. Let me preface this by saying I do almost exclusively buy clothes secondhand now. It's very rare that I will buy a piece of clothing new. And if I do, it's because it's from maybe a designer friend that I know or a small business that I want to support. But largely and almost exclusively, I now look to buy my clothes secondhand when I do. That could be from charity shops, thrift warehouses, car boot sales, but also online marketplaces, of which one of my favorite for quite some years now has been Vinted. In case you're not familiar with Vinted, it's a peer-to-peer marketplace. So you as a person can create an account on Vinted and you could start buying things from other people or selling things to other people. It started off largely around clothing and fashion. So it was a great way for people to declutter and sell things from their wardrobe to other people who were looking to buy secondhand. Vinted has now expanded hugely and you can now sell all kinds of things on Vinted, like books. I actually sold a sewing machine on Vinted the other day, but largely it is still a clothing and accessories and fashion resale platform. For someone like me who loves shopping, who loves clothes, but who also is dedicated to now exclusively buying secondhand, Vinted is like going into a candy shop. I can spend hours on Vinted just trawling and looking at what's there. One incredible thing about Vinted, which has a positive side but could also have a very negative side, is its algorithm is very smart. Once you start getting into Vinted and you start favoriting items that you like or even doing certain searches, looking for specific things, Vinted's algorithm will very quickly get to know you and it will very quickly start to understand what it is you like and what it is you're looking for. It will know what size you often look for in your shoes and your clothes. And every time you now go into the app, it will serve you up a feed of items that it thinks you will be interested in. And I have to tell you, it is scarily accurate. So on the positive side, if you're someone who is in the market for buying things secondhand, it's brilliant because it will recommend items to you that you will most of the time not have been aware of, probably never have thought to search for, but it is so your style and it's so something that you would respond to. So it's great for discovering new things, new items, new styles, things that you would not necessarily have found searching on your own. On the negative side, if you're someone like me who's looking to cut back on consumption and who is looking to be a lot more intentional about purchases and aiming for a low buy year, if not a no buy year, it can be quite dangerous because it means that every time you go into the app, you get served up with things that are just constantly tempting you to buy. If I was having a very strict no-buy year, I would probably just stay off Vinted altogether. I would delete it from my phone and forget it ever existed. But I've actually been selling a few things on Vinted lately, so I've been having to go into the app so that I can check if I've got messages and just keep up to date with the orders and things like that. So I have been going into the app. Every time I go into the app, it serves me up a feed of items that it thinks I'm going to love, and I do. So in this video, I thought I would share with you some items that I had favorited from my Vinted feed recently. These are items that I would have in the past purchased without a single thought. I would have seen it, responded to it, liked it, and probably bought it straight away without thinking too much. But now in my era of conscious underconsumption, I'm now looking to put a few more hoops before I press that buy now button so that I can be as close to 100% sure as I can that it's an item that I will love and want to keep in my wardrobe for a long time. One of the hoops that I'm now putting in between me and any clothing purchase is actively looking for reasons not to buy the thing so that I can stop myself, to give myself enough time to consider the purchase a bit more carefully. And I'm finding that in a lot of cases, it has meant that I've actually not wanted to buy the thing in the end. Now, I am not going to get sanctimonious about this whole thing. I totally applaud people that can and have and continue to do the no buy thing. I think it takes such resolve to do that. It's really an incredible skill. I don't think I can. I love clothes too much. I don't think I could hold myself from buying clothes throughout the year. But what I'm committed to is becoming a lot more conscious and a lot more intentional about what I do allow to come into my wardrobe and come into my space. Because once that thing comes into my possession, I now have full responsibility for it to the extent that if and when I don't want that thing anymore, it's now my responsibility to pass it on responsibly. And that's quite a big burden. I'm finding that now. I've got things in my wardrobe that I would like to cull, but I'm finding that the burden of passing them on responsibly is a lot more than it used to be. I used to be able to just donate everything to charity, not think about it too much, or way in the past, we might have thrown things away in landfill, but that doesn't feel like a good enough option anymore. So while I do donate things to charity, I also do like to know that the pieces that I am looking to recirculate are going to a home. And the best way to ensure that for me is to be selling them to somebody else because I know that they're going on to another home. I feel like as great as it is to donate things to charity, and we all should, I just don't know what happens to those items. If they don't sell on the charity shop floor, then they go on to textile recycling. And it's that unknown factor that in some cases makes me feel a little bit hesitant to donate certain items to charity. So in this video, I thought I would talk you through all of the items that I have been favoriting on my Vinted feed for the last few weeks. I'm going to talk about what about it I responded to, what I love about it, but we're also going to talk about what reasons I found not to buy it that ultimately did stop me from buying it. So, are you ready? Let's get into it. First up, let's talk about these shorts. I have had these shorts favorited in my Vinted feed for at least the past 7 or 8 months. There were so many times that I had nearly hit the button on buying these shorts. As a pair of shorts for summer, I absolutely love them. I love a paper bag waist. I love the little ruffle detail. I love a stripe. They mix and match with so many different prints and patterns and designs. I could style this with a t-shirt. I could style it with a sweatshirt. It's just such a cute pair of shorts. Those are the reasons why I loved and responded to the shorts. Let's now talk about the reasons I found not to buy them. Reason one, the fabric composition. I was ideally looking for cotton, but they are a cotton polyester blend. And that for me was not ideal. If I'm going to buy a pair of summer shorts, I would rather have them in cotton, especially in a fabric like this, a striped fabric, which you could easily find in a cotton. In the list of pros and cons, for me, that was a score in the con box. Reason two, if you look at this picture here, you can see that the quality of the seaming of it, the quality of the manufacturing of it just doesn't seem to be there. The overlocking just looks a little bit wavy and a little bit sloppy. That seaming that you see there is called an overlock, and it's the standard way of finishing off raw seams on the inside of garments for mass production. When I'm sewing my own garments, I don't like to use that technique, particularly on woven fabrics. On knitted fabrics, stretch fabrics, absolutely overlocking. On woven fabrics, I much prefer a seam finish which is a bit cleaner, like a French seam or binding, but of course that's a lot more labor intensive and expensive to do. So for me, that seaming just looks a little bit cheap. Even when I looked at this detailed photo where I could see the top of the paper bag waist and that was just overlocked, there was no finishing, there was no double turning, and there was no nice finishing on the top of it. To me, those are just hallmarks of an item that was not particularly well made, probably mass produced in a cheap fabric. And I just thought, not only could I make that pair of shorts myself, I could make it to a much higher standard than that. So for those reasons, I continue to save it for inspiration, and I will make myself a pair of shorts like that this summer, but I shall not be buying it from Vinted. Next up, we have this dress. Now, the second Vinted served me up this dress in my feed, my eyes just popped out of my head. My dopamine was surging. It ticks so many boxes of things I love. Sequins, a baggy shape, a low relaxed neckline. Love the way the sleeve is hanging. Just love how easy breezy, relaxed this looks. I could see myself rocking up to any event, casual or otherwise, wearing this and feeling like an absolute queen. I just loved everything about it. But then I started looking for reasons not to buy it. At £45, it's not going to be a no-brainer purchase. It's got to be something that I feel very invested in and a piece that I feel I will want and love to keep for a long time. I do feel that way generally about a lot of the sequin garments that I introduce into my wardrobe. I absolutely love sequins, so I find them hard to let go of. So that's a big tick. However, when I started to really examine the garment based on the photos I could see, the first thing I was a little bit dubious about was the neckline and the wrapping on the front. I was trying to work out, how does does that V stay in place? To me, it most likely looks like there is a hook and eye fastening, probably just at the bottom of the V, and then also one on the hip. And the first thing I thought is that enough of a closure? Possible to fix. I could just go in and sew some additional hooks and eyes or make the closure a little bit more secure, so not a complete deal breaker. Then I looked at the sleeve. Now, I've got shorter than average arms, and I know this because every single time I bought any long sleeve top ready to wear, the sleeve has been too long. So if the sleeve looks that long on her, the model, who looks a bit more of a average type proportion, maybe taller than average, and the sleeve already is coming down to this part of her hand, the sleeve already looks like it might be slightly long for her, I will almost certainly have to make an alteration to that dress for the sleeve to fit me. Again, not in and of itself a deal breaker, but then I'm looking at the ruching detail on the sleeve, and I'm thinking, with that ruching detail, yes, it's still possible to do an alteration and shorten the sleeve, but those added details just make alterations a bit more of a pain. So already I've got two potential alterations I need to do to the dress if I bought it. Then we get to this picture, and I can see the actual shape of the dress now. I can tell that it is a batwing sleeve and that it funnels down into quite a narrow shape as it gets to the bottom, hence why we have the slit in the front. If we didn't have a slit in the front, this dress would be too restrictive to wear based on the length of it. Now, I have owned a coat in the past which had that similar shape, and while it wasn't as long as this, I can imagine that with the length of that dress, and bear in mind I'm 5 foot tall, this model's probably at least 5'7", maybe 5'8", so the dress would be even longer on me than it is on her. I wasn't sure I would like the feeling of it tapering that much at the bottom, having to have so much leg out all the time. It's a shape I'm familiar with, and I wasn't convinced I would love it and feel 100% comfortable in it. My sense was that it would be something that would potentially stop me from reaching for it as much as I would like to think I would. Vinted also served me up this trouser, which I immediately responded to. Love the palm print, love the border print. I absolutely love a border print, and you don't see them that often anymore. Love a tropical print. It's just screaming holiday vibes. I was imagining myself on the beach wearing this trouser, pool to bar, with a bikini top, nice pair of sunnies, living my best Hoka Cabana life. I asked about the fabric composition. It was 85% viscose, 15% linen, so all natural fibers. Everything was looking good. But then I started to look for reasons not to buy it. Reason one, the color. The background color is a sort of peach color, which is not in my ideal palette. My color palette is winter, and peach, it's not a color that I feel confident wearing. It just drains my complexion, and also becomes really problematic because I'm looking at this trouser and thinking, what in my wardrobe color-wise would go with this? Now, I do have some monochrome things, black and white striped t-shirts and things like that, which those tend to go with any other print. So that would be okay, but I don't tend to like wearing t-shirts on holiday. When I'm on holiday and it's a sunny holiday, a beach holiday, I like to have as much of my skin out as possible. So realistically, I would not wear a t-shirt with that trouser on holiday. I just don't think there's a huge range of things in my current wardrobe that I could style with it. Secondly, the print is what I responded to, but the print, funnily enough, is something that was going to be quite problematic for me because I can see from the listing that it is a regular length, meaning it's probably going to be best suited to someone who is at least 5'5", maybe 5'6". I'm 5 foot tall. So I already know that I will most likely have to shorten this trouser by at least 4 or 5 inches. And where do I do that? Because it's got the border print, I don't want to cut that off because what a shame that would be. The whole beauty of the trouser is the print. I could get clever and cut off the border print and make it as a cuff, like join it higher up. But then you start to disrupt all the other prints, like the scale of it. It's not a small print where you can get away with chopping off bits of it. It's a huge border print. So I just thought, I don't think it's going to be as easy to do a shortening alteration on those and still maintain the best thing about the trouser, which is the print. Next up, we have this pair of novelty glasses. Now, I am an absolute sucker for novelty eyewear. They do tend to be cheaply made. They do tend to be led for occasion, and from this pair of glasses it seems to me like it's something that you might wear at a festive period, New Year's Eve, something like that. But the quirkiness of it really intrigued me. I quite like the fact that the lenses are tinted so I can wear them during the day but also during the evening. I did actually like the shape. That sort of big, oversized, vintagey type shape. I know already that shape would suit me. I was rather intrigued by the chain and the disco ball. I wondered initially whether the chain started here at the front of the frame and whether you put the chain around your ear and it's the weight of the disco ball that actually holds the frame onto your face. So I did have to do a little Google search actually. I did Google search to find other frames like this and see how the design was, because I couldn't see from the photos here. Turns out it does have a plastic arm and the chain is just attached to the back of the arm via a hole. But there's just something about it I thought was quite quirky. I don't know that I would wear them with the baubles like that, to be honest. I did just quite like the shape of the front. I love the color, I love the tinted, and I may still well buy them. I don't know. I might replace the baubles with a tassel. A tassel is much more me. And I would probably replace the chain with one that looks a tiny bit more expensive than that. That looks like the cheapest entry-level chain one can buy on the market. But for £2.50 for a pair of novelty glasses, when in fact, because I went on an eyewear making course, I now in theory have the knowledge to make these properly and well. I don't have to buy cheap novelty glasses anymore. So do I want to? Do I want to? I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to rule this item out just yet. It's still in my favorites. I do still think it's very cute, very quirky. I like it, but we'll see. Not going to buy it straight away. And then we have this swimsuit, which Vinted served me up. There were so many things I thought were very cute about this. The print, the heart print, for some reason, I'm looking at a few heart print things at the moment. There's a brushed cotton duvet cover and pillowcase set, which I've also currently favorited on Vinted, which is a red and white heart design. So I responded to the print. I just thought the bows on the straps were super cute. I love the little V-shape cutout on the front. I think that's really quite clever. I like that. But then I had to look a bit closer. I'm like, what is that nude fabric right there in the middle of it? Is that the lining of the swimsuit that you can see from the front cutout of the V? Having zoomed in, I think it's actually a nude piece of fabric that was inserted into the V so that it would look like a V shape and it would look like your skin, but it's not. It's actually still a straight line on the swimsuit. So wasn't too keen on that. I just thought either commit. If you're going to cut it out and commit to it. Show the actual skin. I think that's just a lazy way of trying to do the detail, but without getting into the level of construction consideration that you would need to keep that V-shaped structure going and keep your boobs inside the swimsuit. The other thing is I'm very fussy with swimsuits. I like swimsuits that have the option to have padding inside. I can't be convinced that this one does. A lot of one pieces don't, and for that reason I would not seriously consider buying the swimsuit. Very cute though, and I will probably save it for inspiration. And finally, let's talk about this bag, which I have had in my favorites for several months now. I love the idea of this bag. I love the pop of neon, and I do have some neon yellow accessories. I have neon yellow eyewear, and I just thought as a combo to style it with a monochrome look, to style it with anything, to be honest. I think that little pop of neon in the accessory would just be so cute. I love the fact that it's a little bit sheer, a little bit see-through. It looks like a good size. You could fit loads of stuff in it, take it on a holiday as a beach bag, or whenever I'm going up to town or anything and I need to carry anything, it would just be the perfect size bag. However, let me look for the reasons not to buy. The first thing is the straps. The straps are okay, but I would probably be tempted to do something slightly more exciting with the straps. To me, the straps are just a little bit basic. The second thing is the price. I don't think it's too badly priced for what you get, but it is from a fast fashion company. I don't really know what the quality of it is going to be like over time, how robust it's going to be as a bag holding things. And actually, in the end, I thought to myself, I do have tote bags, not in that color, but I do have tote bags that I could zhuzh up, that I could embellish, that I could make more exciting, that would do the job of a bag like this. Okay, it won't be neon yellow. I think that's the biggest appeal for me of this bag, is that it's neon yellow. And again, I'm not ruling it out completely. I still have it saved in my favorites. Every time I go into my favorites, I still think about it, but I've not bought it because I'm still not yet 100% convinced that it's something that I will get a huge amount of use out of. And in this stage, if we're aiming for underconsumption, I think the general motto has to be, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. So there you go. There's my little roundup of things I have favorited on Vinted over the past few months, but have found reasons not to buy. I hope you found this useful. I hope you found my thought process behind this all very insightful. And I hope that you might be able to utilize this technique the next time you're thinking of buying something that you don't necessarily want and you certainly certainly don't need. Drop me a comment and let me know if you enjoyed this video and if you think we should make this a little regular series throughout the year. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.